this is Missy Hyatt, and I'm doing a career interview with the Hannibal TV.
So I'm here with the legendary Missy Hyatt. Could you start off by telling me where you were born?
I was born in Tallahassee, Florida.
And what type of childhood did you have? I understand
Oh my gosh.
you're rich a little bit.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say rich. I would just say middle class, upper middle class maybe. I had a great mom and dad. I was adopted at birth, and if I would have had a million parents out there, a million applications for parents, I couldn't have picked a better mom and dad to raise me, and they were great. They were really wonderful.
I heard you say on, I think, Steve Austin's podcast, in that interview you did there, that your dad bought you several cars.
Oh, yeah. I used to keep wrecking them. He bought me a Fiat Spider convertible for my 16th birthday. My birthday's October 16th. I had wrecked it once and then totaled it October 31st. And then he bought me a silver Z28. And I wrecked the heck out of that. I don't even know what happened to that car. And then he bought me I had the silver, the Z28. Then I had a Fiat, it was a little yellow Fiat. I forget what kind of Fiat it was. And then I had a gold Trans Am. And that's the one me and my best friend Cindy used to be road dogs at, going around all the wrestling shows in my gold Trans Am. And then after the gold Trans Am, he bought me a Mazda RX-7. I think that was it, yeah. And that was all when I was between the ages of 16 and 18. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, my poor dad. I feel bad now. Now that I think about it, I'm like, what was he thinking giving a 16-year-old a car? If I would have a child, I wouldn't have given him a car at 16, or I would at least made him pay for the insurance or something. But he didn't make me do any of that. He was a good dad.
And we have the same birthday, by the way.
Oh, we do? You're
yes.
October 16th?
Yes.
Oh, hot dog.
Exact same day. And I haven't met many people that have that birthday.
I know, yeah, me either. You know who else has that birthday? Is Jeannie's daughter with Chris Adams.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she's October 16th too.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
When you were growing up, did you play any sports?
No, I didn't. I ran track a little bit, and that was about it. And I roller skated a lot. I was like queen before I got a car. You know, when I was like 14, 15, I was like at the roller skating rink every weekend. That was my thing.
And how young were you when you started watching wrestling?
Well, I'll never forget. I was 17, and my dad was flipping channels, and he turned on to, it was, I guess, Georgia Championship Wrestling at the time on TBS, and it was the Freebirds, and Terry Gordy was running around the ring. They had put a baby bonnet on his head and a baby bottle in his mouth, and he was screaming and running around. And I remember I just stopped and I started watching, and I was like, what in the world is this? My dad's like, oh, it's just wrestling. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a hoot. I mean, I gotta watch this. And so I started watching it, and I was just like, every Saturday and Sunday I was there watching it. And then I started looking in the TV guide to see other wrestling. Is there any other wrestling on? Because I got hooked. I got hooked.
So it was just the live entertainment factor that
yeah, it was just the whole thing of it, and then them doing the interviews and stuff. I was just like, oh my gosh, I love this. I want to do this.
Did you know that it was entertainment at that point?
Well, not when I first started watching it, but by the like third or fourth week, the squash matches, I figured out who was going to win and who was going to lose, because they would talk about the star, and then the other guy, they would never talk about him, and so I knew, if they don't talk about you, then you're going to lose. So I figured that out pretty easy.
And you mentioned that you would drive around to the matches in your car.
Me and my road dog best friend Cindy, I went to one of the wrestling shows in Tallahassee, and I was just like, Cindy, Kirkland, I know you. We went to high school together, you know. What are you doing here? And I don't know, what are you doing here, you know? And so we ended up hanging out and going to all the shows together. And I remember I called her up one morning. I was like, hey, they're wrestling in Miami tonight. Or I forget what town. What town was that we showed up and we were a week late? Okeechobee or something. Yeah, so I call her up and I go, because you could call the wrestling office and they would have pre-recorded message and tell you what night is what town. And so I called her up and I go, they're in Okeechobee tonight, and then then the next night in Miami, you want to go? And so she said, yeah, let's go. So we woke up that morning, picked her up, we go all the way down to Okeechobee, which this is like an 8-9 hour drive for us. And we get there, and so we pull into town, and we stopped at the 7-Eleven, and we get out, and we're like, hey, where's the wrestling tonight? Where's the high school? The wrestling. They're going, oh, that was last week. And we're like, so we went on over to Miami, and we spent the night at a friend of mine's house in Miami, and then we went to the show the next night in Miami. And this is when we figured out, I figured out more about wrestling business, because when they would do the loop, Dusty was the booker at the time, and they would do the loop, and they would do like Miami, West Palm, Jacksonville, certain nights in Tampa or whatever, and they had the same matches. And so we're like, didn't we watch that match last night? Wasn't that the same match? We know who's going to win, so that's when I kind of, was getting smarter to the business a little bit, but.
Who were some of the first wrestlers that started talking to you?
Well, the first one that I ever wanted to meet was Tommy Wildfire Rich, because he was the bomb. I mean, we're talking, this is like 1981, and he was on Georgia Championship Wrestling, and, the bleach blonde hair and just everything. He just oozed sexiness. And he was the first one I talked to, and I'll never forget when I got to meet him, he was wrestling Michael Hayes that night, and I'll never forget. He was like, yeah, I got to wrestle Michael Hayes tonight. And I'm like, ooh, Michael Hayes, like a fan would say. But it was like Michael Hayes, and it was the Freebirds. So that's the reason why I got into wrestling, because of the Freebirds, because I'm seeing them. But and then in Florida with Cindy, it was Barry Windham, Butch Reed, Sugar, and that's when I met Marty Funk and Dory Funk, and Marty Funk and I became really good friends. Magnum TA. Who else was there? Mike Graham. Yeah, all that. Oh, and Steve Kern. Yeah. Those are some great times. That was fun.
So I guess it's true that Tommy Rich was like really a huge ladies' man.
Oh my gosh.
Sullivan say that like he never saw a wrestler more loved by the ladies.
Oh my gosh, yes. He had women following him everywhere. I mean, I was just like so in love with Tommy Rich. Oh yes, I was in love with Tommy Rich. I don't mind saying it. He was the hot baby face.
Unfortunately, he didn't manage to keep those looks.
I know. He was the one that got away.
He's still wrestling though, isn't he?
I think so.
How did you start getting into the actual business, going from a fan to being...
Well, I moved to Atlanta, and I met a girl at a wrestling show, and at one of the shows in Georgia, and she lived in Atlanta, and I moved up there and moved in with her, and she was a big fan, and so we would go to the shows. And then I had met Jake Roberts, and we dated for a while, and then after Jake I met Johnny Tatum, and I met her through this girl, and Johnny was just starting out, and he had just moved there, and he had this old red convertible car with that bleach blonde hair, and I was just, when I first saw him, I was like, I'm in love. He's tall, he's good looking, everything. He had everything, and I was like, oh, that's my man. And so I met him, and then we moved. He got a job with Crockett, and so we moved to Charlotte. I moved with him to Charlotte, and we were in Charlotte for about 6 months, and then he got Rick Hazard called him from Dallas, and there was a spot opening up, so I moved with him to Dallas. So. And
just one question about Jake. We've interviewed him, and I like him, but he always says that the incident with the honky-tonk man hitting him with the guitar is what really drove him to taking drugs. Did you notice when you dated him if he took any drugs around that time?
Let me just say that I'll never forget that we would stay up. The first time I ever did cocaine was with Hawk and Jake. And we were getting ready to go to this bar Shenanigans, and they were doing it, and they gave me some, and I'll never forget, because I was like, which doesn't go good with I'm ADHD, and it doesn't go good with ADHD, but I'll never forget, that was the first time I ever did it. And, we were running around the bar, but we would stay up and play cards all night. And I'm young, so I can stay up, and plus I can sleep all day. And he would be up, partying, and we would be playing, 500, or Rummy 500 or whatever, playing that, and we'd stay up all night playing cards. But no, he was partying. And then he also gave me my first halcyon, because I had we had done coke, and I was like running all around, like all hyped up, crawling the walls or whatever. And I'll never forget, he gave me a halcyon. He said, chew it up and swallow it. And I don't remember anything but waking up the next day at like 6 o'clock, so this was way before the Honky Tonk Man. But I'll never forget, we were up watching TV, and they had World Class Wrestling on, and this was back, and they had what's her name, Precious against Sunshine on there. And I remember seeing that, and I told Jake, I'm like, Jake, that's what I want to do. I want to do that, Jake. And Jake had came up with an idea. They were going to do something with Bob Roop, and have Bob Roop give a big box, and I was going to be in the box, and then Jake was going to undo the box, and then it's a girl. Bob Roop's giving him a girl, and then instead of him like walking up like he's liking me, but then DDT me, as an angle. That never got to happen. But he did call World Class for me and tell World Class, I have a girl here that wants to, but they didn't have any spots for me at the time. But Jake did that for me, which was really, really nice.
So back to John Tatum. For people that aren't familiar with him as a wrestler, what are some of the feuds that he might have had?
Well, we had Scott Casey, Missing Link. Those were probably in World Class. Those were probably the big ones. First was with Scott Casey, and then was with Missing Link. With Sunshine, because Sunshine, that was the Sunshine versus us. We were the heels, and she was the baby face. And
so you told him your interest in being a manager?
No. I moved out there with him, and I was back sitting in Lawton, Oklahoma, and David Manning came up to me and said, "Hey, do you want to be a manager?" And I was like, "Yeah, what do I have to do?" I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Okay." He goes, "Well, come down to the office and we'll talk about it." And so I was like, "Johnny, David Manning asked me if I wanted to be a manager." And Johnny's like, "Yeah, that would be great. 2 paychecks. How great is that?" And so I remember going to the Sportatorium like the next day or whatever. And Fritz is there behind the desk in his little zip up one piece, workman's outfit. And Kevin and Carrie were there. And I've never been so scared of my life. And they were just so cool and so nice. And the original gimmick was supposed to be that John was my son, that I had married his father, and he was my son, not my son's, but I guess stepson, stepson, and that his father died on the honeymoon, and he was real wealthy. And then this is Johnny, his son. And so then I just started to take his career over. And that never, they never put that out, but they would call me the socialite, or, say things like that in World Class. But we never got that far deep into my persona, but that's what it originally was going to be. And we were trying to figure out names for me. And I used to go by Missy Hyatt. And, but Johnny, my parents called me Missy. And so Johnny started calling me Missy. And so we were trying to come up with a name for me, and Johnny was like, Missy something, and they're like, well, why don't we use Missy Hyatt? That sounds like a good name. I was like, okay. Back then you could have called me Turtlehead. I wouldn't have cared. I was just getting to do something that I wanted to be a part of, and got the opportunity to do it. So I was a really lucky person.
How did the guys in the dressing room treat you at that time?
They treated me wonderful. I was treated always very, very nice. I used to go in, and Johnny would take a metal chair, and open it up and fold it and put me in the corner, and I'd take a book and read a book and just try to be respectful because guys are in there. Different guys are undressing at different times and getting dressed, taking showers and doing this. So I used to just look at the the corner and the walls and just read a book and be respectful, and they were all very nice to me. I mean, they were, and this was at the time when the baby faces and the heels were in 2 different rooms, and they kept them separate, and the referee would go back and forth with what they're going to do, but they kept them, pretty much separate. So, except for one time, Buddy Roberts tried to pee on me. In Fort Worth, I was in the bathroom, and John would stand in front of the door of the bathroom, not let anybody else in when I had to use the bathroom or change. And somehow Buddy got in there, and then the stalls, how they have the gap at the top and the gap at the bottom of the stalls. Buddy was at the top of the gap with his pants down, getting ready to pee on me. And I was in there and I was changing, and you just have this feeling somebody's staring at you or somebody's looking at you, and so I'm like, somebody's staring at me. Okay, well so I kick a boot up, da 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 da. I'm not singing it, but I'm like, getting undressed and everything like that. And then there's Buddy up there going, "You're gonna get peed on by a free bird." What's it called? It's like royalty to be peed on by a free bird or something. And I remember coming running out of there. John, Buddy's trying to pee on me. And he's, I guess you had to be there, but it was funny. But that was the only time. But everybody treated me really well in world class. I was treated so well in world class. And Fritz von Erich and Kevin and Carrie and the whole family are just the nicest people in the whole wide world, and I love them with all my heart.
Were the drug issues of the children?
Never saw it, never noticed it. I remember talking to which one was it? The one that had the toxic shock syndrome.
Is that the youngest one?
Yeah, one of the young ones. He had just had toxic shock. Yeah, Mike, and he came back, and we were doing interviews, and Mike was like, I really don't want to wrestle anymore. I really want to get into the production part of the wrestling and everything like that. And I remember, that would be really good for you. But I mean, I never really talked to a lot of them because we didn't get that much interaction because they were in a different dressing room. I mean, one time we had a party at my house, and we had friends of ours that were they were fans, and they weren't smartened up. Sunshine came over, and we had her come through the bedroom window and hung out in the bedroom, and then I would come out and talk to people, and then me and John would come back, and a couple of people would come back, and we'd shut the door, and she had to stay in my bedroom at the party because we couldn't let her out because I didn't want people to know that we were friends because we were bitter enemies. But Sunshine was great. She taught me everything. She taught me how to catfight and everything, and she was just what a nice person, and to take me under her wing and to do that for me, which that just doesn't happen. It was like a family.
And I guess she was from Canada, I think.
No, she's from Florida. She's from Tampa. She's
that's Precious, I guess. Maybe
Precious. I don't know where Precious is from, but I know that Sunshine is cousins to what's his name? Precious and Jimmy Garvin. Yeah, Jimmy Garvin and Sunshine are cousins.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, because he came up with the idea of a ballet, but Precious was pregnant at the time, so we got his cousin Sunshine.
Yeah, because I think he met Precious while wrestling in Canada.
Maybe that's it.
Wrestled in Canada with his brother. Because we were interviewing Ronnie a couple of years ago about that. So she wasn't jealous of you coming in?
No, not at all. She wasn't jealous at all. If anything, she went out of her way. One time, when I first started, we were rolling around, our hair's long and you can't see it, but I was laughing in the ring as we were rolling around. And the first time she came into the dressing room, she comes in there mad as heck. She's like, "Don't you ever laugh." And I'm like, "I'm so sorry. I'm having a ball." I'm having the best time of my life. I'm getting paid to do something I do for free, and it was like, she was like so mad at me for laughing. I was like, I'm so sorry, I won't ever do it again, but I couldn't help it.
That was a pretty hard-hitting territory. Was it the same with you when you were rolling around the Sunshine?
No, not really. It was easy with her. I mean, she showed me how to, how when you grab the hair and how to hold onto the wrists and how to, do everything. And her and I just gelled really well. Now, Dark Journey and UWF, that was a totally different thing. And I tried working with Dark Journey, and I worked with her and went over to Grizzly's house and tried to show her a few things, and we did the same finish every night for 3 weeks on the loop, and she still got everything wrong and kicked my ass every night. Every night I got my ass whooped, and I had a bald spot and cracked a couple teeth, broke my nose, broke my thumb. Yeah, she beat me up bad. I laugh about it now, but at the time, and Johnny was like, never cry in the dressing room. So I used to go outside and cry, or go and get in the car and cry, and and be, I got my ass kicked again.
So I guess he liked it because you were getting paid and he was also getting paid.
Yeah, we had double paychecks. Yeah, it was great.
Were you encountering any issues with male fans having crushes on you?
No, I mean, one time I remember in Fort Worth, I was coming back from the ring. This is before they had the railings up, and the railings through the crowd to security, and some guy grabbed me by the back of the shirt and ripped my shirt completely off, and one of the cowboys that were our security guys took off his coat and put his coat around me. Thank God I was wearing a bra that day, but because I didn't wear a bra a lot in world class, and he covered me up, but I never really. And then Johnny told me about 5 years ago, I talked to Johnny and we were talking about that, and he said his doctor, the doctor that he went to, that doctor was in love with you. You could have married a doctor. That doctor was in love with you. And I was like, I don't remember that.
Was Bruiser Brody around at the time?
He was there a couple of times, yeah. But I mean, Bruiser Brody's Bruiser Brody, so I never really talked to him. I had respect for him, and he's up here, we're down here, so. Gave him the respect.
He's too there a bit, didn't he? Didn't he help out with the production?
I don't know. See, that's one thing I don't know. He might have, but I don't know.
What about Gino Hernandez?
Oh, Gino was there. I'll never forget. Gino came in with his Louis Vuitton bag, and I was like, oh my God, I love your suitcase. Where'd you get it? And he was like, it costs too much money for you. Oh. Or something like that. He said something like that to me, and I was like, wow, Gino, he's so cool. And then Gino asked me to go, there's this one bar in Dallas that you had to be in the book, like you had to be a member to get in, the Red Room or something. And I'll never forget that he asked me to go with him to it, to get to go. And so I met him there, and I got to go to the Red Room with Gino Hernandez, and I thought it was so cool, and Johnny was like, so how was it? Did you have a good time? And I was like, oh, I had a great time. Gino's so cool, I love Gino. And then I found out later from Rick Hazard that Gino wanted, after they did the hair at Texas Stadium, when they did the hair match, him and Chris did the hair match, that Gino wanted to do a thing. They wanted to put Sunshine with John. Me and John break up, and me go with Gino, and then go against Johnny and Sunshine, me and Gino against Johnny and Sunshine, and then Gino had to pass away. That would have been a great angle.
Yeah, some people have said because I guess the cocaine was found in his stomach. That
he partied a lot. Yeah, it was the '80s. Yeah. Everybody did. Why do you think everybody loves the '80s so much?
Did you notice anything before he passed away that he was getting increasingly paranoid?
No, nothing at all. Couldn't tell anything. I just remember he went and bought himself a Porsche after he got his hair cut, because he's like, I can't get a date without having a Porsche because I have bald head, so I got to buy a Porsche to get some women. And I was like, Gino, you don't need a Porsche to get women. You're too suave,
I've heard that some people say that he would have really been the best person for the $1 Million Man gimmick.
Oh, yes, because I would have been totally him. Yeah, bad to the bone, Gino Hernandez. Loved him.
And
And I heard there was so many women at his funeral crying over his casket.
Oh, I bet.
Even Chris Adams' wife. They were like throwing themselves on the casket. Yeah, and he was buried with his Platinum American Express card, which I think, because he was one of the first people to have one, which I think is cool.
Who would have had more groupies wanting him or the Von Erichs?
Oh my gosh. That's a tough one. Probably the Von Erichs, only because Kerry looked like a superstar. Whether he was a wrestler, football player, tennis pro, whoever. I mean, if Kerry walked into a room, if you didn't know wrestling, you would know he was somebody. You would think he's either an actor or something, because he had superstar looks about him. So it's probably Kerry.
And I guess he was a really nice person.
Kerry was a great guy, yeah. Kerry and Kevin, great guys.
Did you ever get to meet any of his daughters?
Yes, I've met Lacey. I managed Lacey at a show in New Jersey, and I remember, and I got to talk to Lacey about her dad and tell her how great her grandfather was and stuff like that. And when I did, I think it was a roast for Terry Funk's roast, she was there for that, and New Jack went off on me, and she said something. She was like, "Don't do that," you know. She stood up for me, and then he said something nasty to her, and then Kevin stood up and stuff like that. But she had my back. She's a not only, and I did a Missy's Pajama Party shoot DVD with her. She's in it too, and this is somebody who I could actually say is beautiful on the outside and beautiful on the inside too.
And for Chris Adams, how did you get along with him?
Oh, I got along great with Chris. When before I went to WCW, he was running shows out in Texas, and I went and worked for him a bunch of times. Chris and Tony were great people. I loved Chris, and I'm still friends with Jeannie. You know, his first wife, who then married Steve Austin. You know, I'm still friends with her. As a matter of fact, we just chatted the other day. So, because she's moving, she's moving back to.
What's her name, Lady Blossom.
Yeah, Lady Blossom. Yeah, she's moving back from England. She's moving, I think, to Las Vegas. So she just wrote a book, and I wrote the foreword to her book. She wrote a book about shattered glass. Or shattered. Ooh. Somebody don't get on to me about that, because I can't. It's shattered. I think it's the Shattered Glass. Yeah, it's a really great book. Her autobiography is really good.
Oh, that's right, because she was with Chris Adams before Steve Austin.
Yeah, and then Steve. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and they have a daughter together. Her and Chris have a daughter together. So.
And Steve Austin, when I listened to the podcast with him and you, he seems like he was a big fan of yours.
Yeah, I know. And to me, that's so amazing. And I love it, because I heard him on another podcast that he did, and he was talking about my Gucci purse. He said the Gucci purse was the best gimmick at all. You know, that was the best gimmick ever. And I love that. I love that somebody, you know, that's like of Steve Austin's caliber would say that about me. I mean, that makes me feel really, really good.
What did you think of him as a wrestler?
Oh, I thought he was great. I loved him. I mean, when I first met him, I thought he was cool. I mean, but it was also Jeannie came in with him, and I knew Jeannie from World Class, so it was it was nice that she was there, and I was like, he's talent. I was like, he's money. That's what I thought about Steve.
Right from the start.
Yeah, right from the start. I was like, that's money.
I personally liked him better as the Stunning Steve character.
Oh, yeah, I loved him as Stunning Steve. Yeah, with the robes and everything. I thought he was really good at that.
I like him, so I don't mean to ask this in a bad way, but you know his first wife, and with the allegations that came out in later years about him from Deborah, do you think that's just more her wanting money, or?
I don't know. I don't think that's true, because I think Jeannie would have said something to me. I think if that would have been true, I think because Jeannie and I were pretty close, and I think Jeannie would have said something if that was the case.
And what led to you jumping to UWF?
Well, everybody was going, the Freebirds were going, and Ken Mantell, who was the booker, he was going to UWF. And now, now that I think about it, if I would have known that World Class was going to die after we left, I don't think I would have left. I think I would have stayed out of loyalty to them because they treated me so well. But everybody jumped, they all jumped to Bill Watts, and so we went with them.
What did you think of Bill Watts when you met him?
Oh gosh, I remember he's the type of guy that has respect only because of fear, not because people respect him. And I think he's like a big bully. Yeah, he's a big bully, and everybody's always uptight when he was around. You're like, yeah, he's here. Don't cross him.
Shane Douglas was telling us that he really would yell at you for a mistake and get right in your face.
Get in your face and be like spitting and in your face.
Would it be like that even with a female?
Yeah. I mean, he never did that to me, thank God. But I've seen him yell at people before, and it just makes you cringe.
And he seemed to allow backstage fighting occasionally in his locker rooms. Were you witness to any of those altercations?
No, I missed everything. I missed the whole Steve Sting versus
Dick Slater.
Yeah, Dick Slater. I missed that by about a week because we came in about a week later. I missed the Butch Reed. Who was it? Butch Reed versus John Nord. I missed that. I wasn't there when Butch Reed was there, so I missed that. I missed all of that. And then I missed the Korchenko because I heard that Korchenko said they were in the ring together. Korchenko, this was after Eddie Gilbert laid the Russian flag on Bill Watts, and then Bill Watts was wrestling Korchenko. And he said something to Korchenko in the ring that Korchenko got out of the ring, ran past the backstage, left his bags in the dressing room, got in his car and left, and no one's heard of him since.
The Ultimate Warrior was in UWF for a while, as well as World Class.
I missed him there too. And what's so funny is I was good friends with Sherry, his first wife. We were friends in Atlanta, me and Sherry. Me and Sherry worked at the same bar together. Okay. Yeah. And then it was funny, years later in Dallas, we got back together again. And Sherry is one of them. If I was ever going to be gay, which I'm not gay, but if I was ever going to be gay, Sherry would be the lady I'd be gay with because she was just gorgeous. She reminded me of a Barbie doll. She was just beautiful.
Is that the one that Brian Pillman eventually dated too?
No. That's no. This is one way before that.
And I forgot about this when you brought up New Jack's name, but I'll ask you about it now because I was curious.
Okay.
There's a rumor that he dated Terry Reynolds. Did you ever hear about that?
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, it's true.
Okay.
Yeah, it's true.
And I guess you met Eddie in UWF?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we met him in UWF.
I guess you eventually fell in love with him. What was it about him that...
I don't know. It was just like, it started out, we had to do the Hot Stuff and Hyatt thing, and so working together close, and it was just, he was giving me attention and everything like that, and, it was the stupidest mistake. I look back, it's only if I would have known back then what I know now, I would have stayed with John, because Johnny and I had better chemistry together. We worked better together. Johnny and I were just young, and Johnny really became the man that I know that he could become, and I'm really impressed with John Tatum now. And
what does he do now?
He runs the Florida State Fairgrounds. His father owned the fairgrounds, and he runs it. Everything, his family, but he runs it. He does the sales and stuff like that. But it's just the person he became was like the person that I knew that was deep down underneath the craziness. I mean, Johnny could have been a pro golfer. He was that good. David Manning used to take him to the golf course and play for money, and he would come home and just pull wads of money out of his pocket. And I'm like, where'd you get that? And he was like, I was at the golf course today. He could have made more money on the golf course than he ever made in wrestling if he would have had the chance. He was that good of a player. But I look back now and I'm just like, I was just young and stupid, and somebody came along and gave me attention, and
And he had a position of power, I guess.
No, Eddie didn't have any power at the time. I mean, he did later on, but which never helped me because he never put me forward. He never, like even in WCW when he was on the booking committee, he never tried to, help my career out, because he didn't want it to seem like, because I'm his wife, that nepotism, that he's doing it. So he never tried to help me out, and he even lied to me when we were in Continental Wrestling about this other girl that was coming in. He lied to me about it because I told him I wanted to switch babyface because babyfaces there could sell their own pictures and make money and make a lot of money, and I was like, I'm all about the money, and I'm all about the gimmick money, and he brought somebody.
That would have been double or triple your pay.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you make $150 at the show, but you can come away with $400 or $500 in gimmick money and posters and T-shirts and 8x10s. So, but you got to be a babyface to do that. Well, he brought someone else in, and he lied to me about it. He just out and out lied to my face about it. And so he took wrestling. Wrestling was number one to him. And so I would have never been, never good enough for him in his eyes. Wrestling was number one to him.
Why was he such a great booker? Like, I'm not very familiar with him, but
Right.
I'm always considered like.
Well, if you ever get a chance, watch the CWFs and watch the UWFs that he has a part of. He just told really great stories. He was really great at doing angles and telling stories and following up to the stories, like the stuff that he did with what's his name's kid. They did something that he came out there and he did something to, what was his name, Willie B. Hurt's kid, and people really were pissed about that. They were like, how could you beat up a kid, a 12-year-old kid? I mean, just the angles that he would do, the shock angles that he would do, but he would also follow up. I mean, he would book stuff out, months in advance. I mean, that's how he thought. He thought, when he would write storylines and more and how to blow it off, and this is going to go somewhere else. I mean, he didn't just start something without knowing where it's going. I mean, very creative mind.
And I heard you say in another interview that being around him, you were in a lot of the booking meetings.
I mean, he would talk to me about, not booking meetings, but he would talk to me about angles and stuff, because we'd be on the road together and talking and stuff like that. And especially like when Paul Lee was there, and this was Continental, and Paul Lee was there, we'd all talk about angles and what we're going to do and what we're going to do next. But when he was in UWF, he would run things by me all the time. Like, I learned a lot. But I also, when Jake was the booker, when I dated Jake, and Jake was the booker in Georgia, Jake would talk to me about stuff and ask me, well, what do you think about this? How would this go? Would that work? Because they were getting somebody who wasn't in really wrestling, who wasn't really smart. They were getting a fan's point of view. But I've always been a fan, so.
Yeah, and you don't have a personal stake in it at that point.
Right, yeah.
So you also worked with Sting in UWF a bit. Mm-hmm. What was he like at that
Sting was a great guy. Sting was fun, good guy. Really good guy. He's very quiet, he's very reserved. Sting was just really conservative and quiet and not boisterous or anything like that. He's a nice guy.
I was surprised that him and Dick Slater had an issue.
I know. Over Dark Journey, too.
Oh, that was over a girl?
Yeah, over Dark Journey. Yeah.
I get what Sting took her.
Yes, she left Dickie for the weekend and went and spent it with Steve, and then Dickie found out and put his head in the toilet. And then Sting had to put on face makeup he had bloodied head, and had to put makeup over his bloodied black and blue and bloody and everything, and go out and wrestle. And then Dick left the company and she stayed.
Now for Rick Steiner, you also managed him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Steiner brothers was fun.
Oh, was Scott there too?
Yeah, I mean, in WCW, no, in UWF I didn't, but in WCW I managed both the brothers. But yeah, Rick, it was great. The Hot Stuff and Hyatt thing, it was It was Steiner, Rick Steiner, Sting, Eddie, me, Jack Victory, and John Tatum. And I have a poster of all of us. I have it in a frame, as a matter of fact, on my bookshelf in my sunroom of all of us together, which was a great. We were the first heel faction like that. We were a big heel faction, so I like that. It was cool.
When you managed him with Scott in WCW, did Scott have the anger issues?
No, he was fine. He was very quiet. He was very quiet, and so was Rick. Rick was very quiet. The only thing, though, that Rick got mad at me one time after I wasn't managing him anymore, and I remember they were doing the Bruise Cruise, the cruise that all the wrestlers could go on, and I remember I was doing the hotline, the 900 hotline, call me on the hotline on Sundays, and I said on my promo was, this is Missy Hyatt, call me on the 900 hotline, and I'll tell you which wrestler's taking his wife or his girlfriend on the Bruise Cruise, right? Because I used to make up stuff for the hotline. He came in, I guess, the next week after that aired on Sunday and yelling at me because his wife's pregnant. And he's like, my wife heard that. She's thinking I'm going to take a girlfriend, blah, 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 blah. And I was just like, dude, it's a work. Wrestling's not real, That was it.
And I guess when you were in UWF, WWE contacted you?
I contacted them first, and then Vince called me.
What did you send them, a tape or something?
Yeah, I sent them a picture. Yeah, I'll never forget. I was laying in the sunbed, and I was living in Baton Rouge, and I was laying in the sunbed, and the phone rang, and I picked it up, and it was Vince McMahon. This is Vince McMahon. This is Missy Hyatt. You sent me a photo of yourself. You want to come to work here? And I was like, because me and Eddie both sent pictures, and I was like, yeah, yes, and then and Eddie's there. I'm like, I'm like, yes, hold on one second, and I just hand the phone to Eddie because I couldn't even talk to him. I was just like in shock, I was like, oh my God, Vince McMahon calling, So.
And Eddie had worked for his father, I guess, so Eddie knew him. Yeah,
well, Eddie had worked there before. Eddie had a bad car accident. Eddie worked there in, I think, 86 or something. No, not 86. Oh, I can't even remember the days. 82 or something like that. Maybe 82 or 83. Eddie worked there, and Eddie knew him from working there.
So did they bring you in right to a taping, or did you?
Well, no. First, he had me come up there for a meeting, and me and Eddie flew up there for a meeting. And the whole way up there, Eddie kept saying, "I think they're going to give me Piper's Pit. They're going to give me Piper's Pit. I can do Piper's Pit." And then when we get there, we have the meeting. We go first we talk to Jim Barnett, which I love Jim Barnett. He was so funny. And then we go in there and talk to Vince. And Vince is like, Missy, I'm thinking about giving you Piper's Pit, because nobody can follow up with Roddy Piper's Pit, but maybe a woman can, so we're going to give you the opportunity to do it. And I was like, oh, okay, that'd be cool. I can do that, yeah. I'm just like, I'm going to get and Vince is like, you're not going to be able to go to the grocery store by yourself anymore. You're going to need, a bodyguard. You're going to be a superstar. You're going to be the next, best thing, big thing, blah, 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 and I'm, all I'm seeing is like, I'm going to get a doll. I'm gonna have a doll, I'm gonna be in WWE or WWF, at the time, and so the whole way back, and then he told Eddie, you can do whatever you want, you can manage, you can wrestle, you can do whatever you want. Well, when we're leaving on the airplane back, because we had to work that night, Eddie's like, I think I'm gonna stay in UWF because they're gonna, I'm the assistant booker now. Maybe I can get the booking job, blah, blah, blah. If you want to go, you can go. You can go to WWE. I'm like, I don't know about you. I'm going WWE. I'm like, I'm going to be a superstar. And so that was a rift between us. But
do you think that was a good decision by him with the amount of stars they were making at that time?
I don't know. I mean, he wanted to be a booker. That was his main goal. If he didn't have to wrestle and just be a booker, he would have done that. Okay. If he had the opportunity. If they said, you can be a big superstar or you can be a booker, he would have taken, and make less money and be a booker, he would have taken less money and been a booker.
So for Missy's Manor, was there any other discussions between that meeting and the first?
Well, no, I go back up there another time to take pictures, and, they bought me clothes. It was so wonderful. I got to buy clothes, and they paid for them, and they bought me all these cool clothes. It was so nice. And they had me come up there to do a photo shoot and to do some voiceovers. Like, they did a thing showing my feet, going up, me saying something about, they were wondering who's going to replace Piper's Pit, but it takes a woman to go in a man's shoes or something like that. I don't remember what it was, but before I did my Missy's Manners, they had a whole set built with couches and backdrops and all this other stuff, and Vince went over what I should say in the back. And so I was just going out there, it wasn't scripted, but it was like what he said. And I remember saying, I'm kind of like a baby face. This is not really good. I don't know how to do this. And the first time I went to interview, I interviewed, what's his name with the megaphone? Jimmy Hart. And I go to ask him a question, and I have the microphone in my hand, and I don't give him the microphone. He has to take the microphone to talk, because I had never interviewed anyone.
And they didn't practice it then, right?
No, we didn't practice them. Needless to say, my interviews, all of them, you can see them on YouTube, they stink. They're really stink. Oh my God. They're entertaining because they're like, this is really bad. It's like a train wreck, and it's going to be bad, but you just keep watching anyway because can it get worse? Can it get worse? So they were pretty bad. I just wish.
It's worth watching them for your outfits.
Yeah, for my outfits. I know. And I got to keep the clothes too. I was really lucky. I got to keep all the clothes. But if he would have just let me do it my way and let me be Missy Hyatt, and done flip it, the bubblehead Missy, I think they would have been better.
Oh, that's not you?
Yeah. Thanks.
And you actually interviewed Macho Man on that. I watched that one. What was he like to work with?
I didn't even really get to talk to him because I just stayed in my dressing room. I was so scared. I stayed in my dressing room at WWE. And I remember when I first met Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan comes up to me, and Vince is like, "This is the Hulkster." And Hulk goes, "Oh, so I hear you're here to take my spot." And I was like, "No, your chest is still bigger than mine. That's okay," and he was really cool. Hogan was really nice to me, and everybody that I met up there was really, really nice, but I just stayed in my dressing room. I was just really intimidated and scared, and I was by myself, and I had never been anywhere by myself. I either had John with me or there was Eddie with me, and so I didn't feel comfortable being out and around. I played with the dog, the bulldogs, or
Matilda.
Yeah, I played with Matilda a little bit, and that was about it. And she smelled funny. I think they gave her liver drops or something, but Matilda smelled. But other than that,
so you basically walked out of your dressing room without ever talking to Macho Man.
Yeah, without ever talking to him, without doing anything, and just going out there and doing the thing.
Today they would never do that.
I know.
So was there a script
I was
involved?
Born too early.
Yeah. Was there a script involved?
No, there was no script. No script. Just Vince told me what to say, and I went out there and said it.
Did you ever talk to Elizabeth much?
No. The only time I talked to her was out there doing the interview. I think I might have said 2 words to her before we went out.
And you also interviewed Harley Race.
Yeah, Harley Race. Yeah.
And then
Jimmy Hart and the Can-Am Connection. Yeah. That was horrible.
That was a bizarre
so cheesy.
One. So they gave you the idea for that Can-Am Connection one?
Yeah, they told me what to do, yeah.
Because they aren't the greatest on the mic.
Oh, I know. And and I wasn't the greatest on the mic either, so it was kind of bad and everything.
You had you were good on mic.
And I think it would have been good too is if we would have done the Missy Manners in towns that knew me, like Dallas and something like that, instead of out there in Vegas. I did it in Vegas, and then I did some in Connecticut. So I would have gotten more booze and stuff like that, I think. But I mean, he told me later when they wanted, when I showed up at Anaheim for the next TV taping, he's like, well, we have an idea. We'd rather have you standing up to show your legs because you got legs, but we want to do an interview segment like that. But what we want to do is have you become a featurette and then do something with the honky tonk man, and the honky tonk man keeps aggravating you and something. I didn't really grasp the whole idea that he had. And then you'll have your own segment. And I'm like, you want me to be a featurette and wear that little outfit and take ring jackets and be one of 3 other girls or 2 other girls, And so I was like, that seems like a step down. And I remember I went and called Eddie, and I said, Eddie, this is what they want me to do. And Eddie's like, you're not a featurette, you're Missy Hyatt, you don't have to do that. And so I went and told Vince, I go, well, I talked to Eddie, and he's like, well, that's the problem right there. He works for a different company. You shouldn't be talking, telling him what we're doing, and everything like that. And I said, well, maybe the time's not right for me to be here. And he's like, yeah, I guess maybe you're right. Time's not right if you don't want to be a featurette. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. So I had to go back home and go up to Dusty after walking up to Jim Crockett, because when UWF, like Bill Watts didn't want to let me out of my contract. And when I first met Jimmy Crockett, I had met him before when me and John were in Connecticut, but he probably doesn't remember meeting me. But when Jimmy Crockett came in, the first thing I do is I walked up to him and shook his hand and go, I'm Missy Hyatt, and I want out of my contract because I'm going to WWF to be a superstar and get a doll. And he's like, okay, you can get out of your contract. So, hence 3 months later, I go up to the office, Eddie's booking UWF, and I had to go up to Jim Crockett and go, hi, Mr. Crockett, remember me? Knock, knock, knock on the door. Hi, I'd really like my job back. Do you think there's anything for me? Please, remember me? Please? Like that. So, but he just told me go down there and talk to Dusty and see what Dusty has. I was like, okay. So I went and talked to Dusty, and Dusty said, oh, they didn't know how to use you. I'll know how to use you right. I'll put you to work. I was like, okay, thank you.
I guess you were under a paid per appearance basis.
No, I was weekly. I was, as a matter of fact, a trivia question is the first woman to have a guaranteed contract in wrestling was me. Because in UWF I had a guaranteed contract, weekly guaranteed money. And so Vince was going to give me weekly guaranteed plus all my clothes, which I love that idea, all the clothes and shoes.
So you would have had a weekly guarantee as a featurette?
I guess. I don't know. I wonder if that would have held up. But I mean, how many featurette outfits could I have bought, though? That's the only thing.
But as you said, there was an angle there with the honky tonk man.
I guess. I don't know. I
guess you were too young, unfortunately.
Yeah, I didn't know what I was doing. I was 24 years old and not new to the business and didn't know anything. And just, I should have just shut my mouth and been a featurette.
Because they weren't really, other than Elizabeth, they weren't really pushing any females. So if they give you that push,
I know. Rude. Oh my gosh, hindsight.
So Crockett had bought the UWF by that point. What differences were there when Crockett took over?
Well, they treated the UWF guys like, redheaded stepchildren. They would have them all lose on the shows, and the show was like a C show. It wasn't a big B show, and they would bring in all their guys and have them beat up all of our top guys and stuff like that. Which I understand you're taking over and you want to, take over, so you're going to do that. But that's kind of basically what happened.
And I'll just ask you this on camera, sure, because I asked you it off, but Shane specifically mentioned to ask you this on camera.
Oh, yeah.
The meeting that happened the first time in Louisiana, I believe it was, when the UWF was going to face the Crockett guys.
Right.
They were all going to walk out.
See, I don't remember that. I don't remember that happening. I don't know if I was there.
He said you were there.
Oh, he said I was there? Oh, okay. I don't remember that, but I know Eddie didn't take a payoff, because Eddie, if he did take a payoff, I didn't get any of the money. And then that's just wrong. Yeah, because I would have had to take a payoff too. But yeah, I don't think he took a payoff. And then you wanted to know about Shane's name.
Yeah, he wanted to.
Yeah, okay. Eddie had, when he was in Continental, he saw Shane and Cactus Jack work for Dominic DeNucci, and he was like, we got to get Shane and Cactus Jack to come work in Continental. And he goes, but his name was Troy Martin. He was going by Troy Martin, his real name. And he's like, but I want a baby face named Shane. He goes, that name, he goes, I just like that name, Shane. I go, but we got to come up with something else. And I just watched the movie Wall Street with Michael Douglas and what's his name? The one that just came out with HIV. 3 Minute Guy. What's his name? Anybody remember the movie Wall Street? Yeah, Charlie Sheen. And so I remember I fell in love with that movie, and so Michael Douglas. So I was like, "Ooh, Shane Douglas." So that's how he got his name. He's named after Michael Douglas. So.
I guess at one point, is it before this that you met Paul Heyman or after?
No, I met Paul Heyman when we were in before Continental. Before we went to Continental, we went down to work in Atlanta for I forget who it was, but we went down to Atlanta to work for somebody, and I met Paul. Paul was there. He had drove from Atlanta, and I remember he was such his gimmick, he was Paul Heyman, or Paulie Dangerously, and he was such his gimmick, and I remember I just fell in love with him, and we went to eat dinner at Waffle House or Shoney's or something that night, and Paul's talking, and he's doing his all talking, and I just fell in love with him. And so Eddie had gone off and was working somewhere, I forget, but me and Paul would talk on the phone every night. I mean, this was back, I used to have like $400 and $500 phone bills back in the day, when you had to pay for long distance, back in the 80s. And then I had friends everywhere, like, I introduced Repo Man to his wife. She was a friend of mine, and I introduced him, and so I'd be calling her, and call my mom, call everybody. So I had large phone bills. But me and Paul we would talk on the phone and talk about wrestling and angles and what we would do, and he'd tell me stories how he got fired from Minnesota and just everything. I loved Paul. And then when Eddie got the opportunity to go to Continental, Eddie didn't want to hire Paul. He thought he was too brash and stuff. I was like, no, you gotta hire Paul. I want you to hire Paul. So he hired Paul. And Paul lived with us because we had a house in Tennessee at the time, and then we had an apartment in Montgomery, and we got a 2-bedroom apartment, and Paulie lived in one of the rooms. He was our roommate for a while.
What do you think of his? He's done pretty well for himself.
Oh, he's done great for himself. Yeah, I would. Yeah, that was easy. I knew he'd become a superstar.
I don't know the time frame that this would have happened, but you've actually seen this video clip. I didn't even ask the question. Larry Sabisco brought it up during our interview with him.
Poor Larry.
He said that...
I think Larry's got Alzheimer's, to be honest with you. I think because the whole story that he said about me was not correct. I mean, it's about as real as my boobs, that story. And I don't know where he got it from. I love Larry. I love Larry to death, but I don't know where he came up with all that stuff, that I lived with him and everything. I don't know. Anyway, okay,
yeah,
go on.
I don't remember if he said he lived with you or not, but he did. He definitely said he dated you.
Right, yeah, I don't know. I mean, one time, we went out with Flair. Everybody, this is back, I think before I met Johnny, we were all out, and Flair's buying kamikazes. He buys 50 kamikazes, and everybody's drinking. And I got really, really drunk, and he drove me. We were in my car, and I was in a dress, and I remember I threw up in my dress, and I had to take it off and put on other clothes. But he took me to his apartment and carried me in, and I passed out. And he cleaned my car for me, and I woke up the next day and went back home to Tallahassee. I hadn't even moved. I hadn't moved to Atlanta yet. I don't know if I had moved to Atlanta yet, or I'd moved back home or something. I'm not sure the time frame. All I know is that he did clean up my throw up out of my car, which was a nice guy to do.
And you bring up Ric Flair. Do you have any stories of any of his craziness?
Oh my gosh. Just that, about him wanting to show his penis all the time. He was always like, you don't want to look at it. You don't want to look at it. I'm like, no, I don't. I've seen it a bunch of times. He goes to bars. And Rick has this way. He'll find the homeliest looking secretary that looks like she's never had fun in her life. And by the end of the night, she's drinking kamikazes. She's got a shirt up over her head, and she's woo-hoo, woo, you know, and going crazy, you know. It's just like Flair can take, you know, a solemn, you know, everybody's down and turn it around and make a party happen. I mean, he's a one-man party.
And what does he do? He just like, I've heard.
It's just his personality. Yeah. I mean, he comes in there and he's like, woo, woo, and just, you know, it's just, it's like electricity, you know, and you get close to him and the electricity comes off on you and you can't help but to be swept up in it. I mean, he really is Ric Flair, Nature Boy. He really is.
What do you think of his daughter?
Oh, I think it's wonderful. I think she's awesome. I love it. I love it that she's beautiful and she's a good worker. I mean, it's amazing that the you know, the the generation's going down. Like she's holding it up really well.
Would you ever have imagined back when you started that now there's like a Royal Rumble of all female wrestlers?
I would have never thought that.
Diva shows, spin-offs of it.
I know, it's amazing. I would have never thought that. I think it's so cool that that there's, you know, because I've always said women can draw in this business, you know, if given the chance, and they really can draw money, and it's amazing to me that all these girls have jobs. I love it.
And I just have to ask you about this because when I was a kid, I liked this VHS tape, The Danger Zone. A lot.
Oh, no, yeah. Thank you, Magnum, for taking me through The Danger Zone. Was that the one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The music on that is great.
And it was all and the videos are just like set to like cheesy porno music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mixed in with.
Yeah. Did you get the calendar? Did you get the calendar?
I never had the calendar.
I thought it was sold together. I thought the DVD and calendar was sold together.
I think I got the tape from a video store. So
so you didn't get the calendar. The calendar was pretty cool too, with all the different wrestlers in it. It was pretty cool.
Who would you have found the most entertaining from that era in the NWA? There's so many great.
Oh my gosh, there's so many. Who would I think is the most entertaining? Well, Ric Flair, definitely. And Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, just all of them. You know, to me, the Four Horsemen's just like, you know, I mean, that came a little bit later, but I mean, to me, that's just like the greatest name, greatest group, greatest heel faction ever, to me.
Now, they brought Medusa into WCW when you were there. What's your opinion of her?
Well, you know, I think they brought her in because she was married to Eddie at the time. And I
didn't know that.
Yeah, she was married to Eddie at the time.
What point, sorry, just to go back for a second.
Right.
What point did you break up with Eddie?
Eddie and I broke up, I believe, in like 1990.
Okay.
Yeah. And then she was married to Eddie. And I think they brought her in. I don't know if they brought her in as a hoot to, like, you know, needle Missy, but we got along great. And it got to the point that I'd be like, okay, what are you wearing for the pay-per-view? She's like, oh, well, I'm wearing this, halter dress thing. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna show me a picture or whatever. I'm gonna get the same dress but a different color in a long version. And then we would do our hair the same, you know, like bangs, and do our hair. I mean, we would do stuff. And we were in the dressing room together, so we would talk and we would do this stuff. And I think they were always thinking that it was like meow, meow, meow. But we got along great. And I'll never forget the day she came to me and she said, you know, me and Eddie are separating, we're getting a divorce. And I was like, do you want to talk about it? And we went to a restaurant and we closed down the restaurant and we hung out and we talked, you know, and I offered her my support, you know, that's what you do to a friend. So, but we got along fine. You know, I think she's a hell of a worker, hell of a talent.
I was pretty shocked to see an interview with her where she mentioned she dated Greg Valentine.
Yeah. After I left WCW and I moved to New York City, I was bartending, and she would come by and see me when I was bartending. She came by. She brought Greg Valentine by, and oh gosh, who else used to come and see me? Kevin Nash. Kevin Nash came by, and I'll never forget, Kevin came by and he said to me, he goes, "Hey, I won the world belt, WWE's world belt." I'm like, "Really? Get out of here." Because I was working, like, I didn't get to watch wrestling at the time. I was like, "You're lying." And he's like, "No, I really did." Okay, I'll buy you, here's, because he drank scotch. So I was like, "Okay, here, drinks on me then, you won the belt." So, but he would come by. He came by a few times, and then another time, Greg wasn't with her this time, but Greg and Mr. Perfect came by, and I wasn't working that night. And the next night I came to work, when the doorman comes up to me and they go, "You were married to Greg the Hammer and Mr. Perfect?" And I'm like, "What?" And they go, "Yeah, Mr. Perfect and the Hammer came in, and they said that they're your ex-husbands." And I'm like, "I wasn't married to them." They all thought it was like so cool that I was married to them. I'm like, "I wasn't married to them. They were just saying that." And I'm like, "Did you charge him to get in?" Because it was like $25 to get in. And they're like, "No, we didn't charge him to get in." And I'm like, "Okay, that's probably all they wanted anyway."
What did you think about Jim Herd when you were working for him?
Oh my gosh, I just thought he didn't know what he was doing. You need a wrestling person in that. I mean, you can get somebody. I mean, he could have get a wrestling person and then a business person, but it just takes somebody that knows wrestling a little bit.
287-898.
I know, it's crazy phone. Yeah,
You're very popular still.
Yeah, I don't know. I have this one person calling me from my same area code, and I don't know why they keep calling me, but they just drive me crazy.
You still have the obsessive people, I guess.
No, I don't know who it is. I think it's one of those robocall things, I think.
I see. Jim Cornette, did you deal with him much in WWE?
No. I mean, I dealt with him a little bit. Like I was there, and then before we left for CWF in Memphis and everything, and got to work with him a little bit, but I never got to work with him, and that's one thing that I really missed out in my career, is not working an angle with Jim Cornette, because I think it would have been the fun. I mean, I loved my angle with Paul Lee, don't get me wrong, because the angle with Paul Lee was a hoot, but I would have loved to have gotten chased by the tennis racket. That's one thing that I missed out on.
And I heard you say in an interview that you were in a match with Abdullah the Butcher in WCW, and he surprised you. He did something to you in the match.
Oh yeah, it was at the Clash of the Champions, and it was when they had the water trough, and they threw me in the water trough on live TV. I didn't know it was going to happen. It was Cactus Jack versus who was that blonde-haired guy that played the guitar? I forget, but it was a false count anywhere, and this was in Wichita, Kansas, and it was false count anywhere in Wichita, and so they had me do the roving reporter thing. So I had a mic, a cordless mic, and I'm following the action, like Missy Hyatt's following the action. Van Hammer, that's it, Van Hammer. And so I'm following the action. They're outside, blah, 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 they're doing this, they're doing that. And Abby comes up to me, and he's like, "I'm really sorry," in my ear, and he picks me up, and he just dropped me in the water trough, and it was cold and everything, and but you know what, my shoes got wet, and I sent the office the receipt for my shoes, because my shoes were really expensive. They were like $200 pair of shoes, and they paid for the shoes, which was cool, which was really nice, yeah, because I was really happy about that. And but what Dusty told me they originally wanted to do, there was a bull there. They were going to throw me in with the bull, but the guy at the fair said the bull might go after me, and with the horns, and like gouge me. And so they thought about it for a while. I can't believe they thought about it, but they thought about it for a while. Well, maybe we shouldn't throw her in there with the bull. We'll just throw her in the water trough instead. Great, thanks. I got thrown into the water trough.
Well, good thing the office paid for the bill, because he wouldn't have.
I know, yeah.
Now, returning to managing after being an announcer, what was the reasoning for that?
Because I didn't want to be a manager. I liked doing the announcing, and And
you were great on the Power Hour with Paul Heyman.
Thank
That was a
you.
great
I
show.
love doing that because I love doing the announcing, and it was an easy job, and it was fun doing it. And I did stuff for the syndicated show. I did the Saturday morning. I did the Sunday, 900 line thing, and I love doing the interviews and stuff like that. Doing the interviews for the pay-per-views and opening the pay-per-views. I love being an announcer, and that's what I really wanted to do. But Eric Bischoff, had a thorn up his ass about me and didn't like me, and that's why he brought me back as a manager, because he knew that's not what I wanted to do.
So Bischoff had taken over.
Yeah, Bischoff had taken over. So.
Were you originally happy that Bischoff had taken over before that?
Originally I was, because we worked together on the Canadian show, and he was like the worst.
Call from Eric.
That's him now.
Yeah. Oh yeah, isn't that funny?
kidding.
Call from Eric. Okay, so Bischoff. All right. What were we saying about Bischoff?
When he took over.
Oh yeah, okay, so when we used to host the Canadian show together, because they put him on the third show, like they had the A, B, and C show, and the C show's the Canadian show. And
Hey, it was number one to us.
Oh, okay, I know, I heard, you know what, I was going to ask you about your accent. Where are you from in Canada?
Ottawa, the capital.
Oh, okay, because I was conceived in Winnipeg.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm Canadian in a way, because I was conceived. I was born in Florida, but conceived. Yeah, my birth mom is Canadian. Anyway,
Well, we love that show, anyways.
yeah, I mean, it was a great, and you know what? And when I started to fall in love with hockey, all the hockey players watched it. So it was so great to be, like known, with the hockey players, because they were just like, oh my God, power, on TSN, Total Sports Network. Yeah. So anyway, and he used to be like, after working with Jim Ross, who is the best. No one before him and no one after him is as good as Jim Ross. And me and Jim would bang those segments out. I mean, at the count, at the 30-second, and then the 10, 9, 8, wrap it up. I mean, and Jim and I would wrap those things. We were a one-take kind of people. I mean, and Jim just oozes greatness, and then it would ooze on to me a little bit, and we would be rolling on our stuff. Then, like I'd spend the whole day taping all my shows. Then I'd have to go in there and tape the stuff with Bischoff. And it was just like he could never count it down and get it down to the 30-second or the minute or the thing. And it was like over and over and over. And it's like I missed airline flights because of him. And I would have to call up, because I'd had special meals on my airline flight, and I'd have to call and get, and cancel my flight and see if I could get my meal on the next flight. And it's just like, because I lived in LA at the time, and I was, flying in to Atlanta every week or every other week to do my shows. And it was just like, oh my God, is it over and over? And by the time you do it like 6-7 times, it just doesn't even look that good anymore. But it was horrible. But, I'm thinking he was trying to sell this kids team sports challenge thing. And he came out to LA. I let him stay at my house. I let him drive my 1963 Corvette, to go around and try to sell this kids teams challenge show. And I thought, oh my God, this is going to be great. And I congratulated him when he got the job. I even had bought him, I had bought all the announcers Christmas presents. I got him ties. I even bought him one, I thought Bischoff was a friend of mine. And, I congratulated him when he got the job, but I had no idea that, he had hard ass on, hard on whatever for me, and he didn't like me and everything. And, that's just, and it is what it is, and I got fired later on after all that. But,
What do you think of the overall job you did? Because I find sometimes he's overrated, because
I think he's really overrated, because I think with all that talent, anybody could have done a good job with the talent that they had. But the talent that you had, if you couldn't make it run, then you're really a numbskull.
That's a very good point that not a lot of people bring up. They had you manage the Barbarian for a while. Do you have
I don't know. I had him, he came out there and saved me, and then I managed him once, and I don't know where that was going. I have no idea. He was such a nice guy, and I loved his wife. They're nice people.
was this whole situation? Maybe you can clear it up. That apparently your breasts came out on an event by accident.
Oh yeah, when it was in Asheville, North Carolina, and it was the Nasty Boys versus Hawk and somebody else. I forget. Anyway, one of the Nasty Boys always was getting hurt and messed up, and so the finish was messed up, so they had to stop the clock. And so they told me to get in the ring and to jump on Sting's back. So I get in the ring and I jump on Sting's back, and Sting, throws me off, and then they, ding, 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 ding. And then when I came up, my rod came down and a little bit of my boobage was hanging out. And so Hawk was going, kayfabe the boob. Kayfabe the boob. And I looked down and I was like, whoops. And a photographer got a picture of it. And so when a couple weeks later, when we went into the photo studio to have new promo pictures of me and the Nasty Boys up, there was an 8x10 photo of me and my boob, hanging on the wall. And I was just like, I took it down, I wrinkled it up, and I threw it away, and then something told me, you need to get that. And so I got it out, and I went to Eric, and I was like, Eric, I want an apology. This is ridiculous. This is something, and he didn't take it serious. He was just like, whatever.
For the Nasty Boys, what was it like working with them?
It was okay. I mean, Brian's nice. He's a nice guy, and it was fun. It was fun. It was something different. And it was fun. And I wasn't on the road with them, thank goodness, because one time they left me with them. We were all out at a bar in Atlanta, and there was a bunch of us there. But I knew the people at the bar, and they had ran a tab, and they left me with the $200 tab, and I had to pay it. So the next pay-per-view or Clash or whatever it was, I found out what rooms the two Nasties were in, and I called up and had breakfast delivered to their room at 6 a.m. I ordered like everything on the breakfast menu and had it delivered, and they were like so pissed. They're like, I heard them in the dressing room the next, that afternoon. Somebody was banging on our door at 6 a.m. and it was breakfast, and we had to pay all this breakfast and da 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 da. And I was over there going, that was me.
Now, did Sherry Martel have anything to do with your WCW release? Because there was
No, I love Sherry. Sherry was supposed to come visit me out in California, and she was going to give me a nurse's, one of her maid's costume. She owed me a maid's costume, and we were friends. I mean, I met her through the guy at Delta Airlines. Like, I was calling him to get a ticket, and she was still in WWE and I was in WCW, and she was parking her car or something. This was at the Fly and Go for Delta, and he was like, I'm here with Sherry Martel. And so he just put her on the phone with me, and he's like, this is Missy Hyatt. So that's how we met, was on the phone through somebody else. And she's like, hey girl, and I'm like, hey girl. And it was like, we just knew each other like that. It was like, oh my gosh, instant best friends. And so the last time I got to see her, when I was living in Tampa, her and her current husband was there, and I was there with my boyfriend, and I got a picture of that, and that's on my dresser. Now it's on my dresser because she was a wonderful lady. And I was hoping when I heard she was coming in that they would let me go to the gym and learn how to wrestle, and maybe I could wrestle her. That's what I was hoping, because I did have a match with her in Canada. It's my only good match I ever had in my life, and it's only because I listened to her, because Sherry Martel can wrestle a broom and make it look good, and which she wrestled me, which I'm a broom, and we wrestled in Canada, and for the gosh, I forget the name of the company that we worked for, but she was awesome. She's just listened to me, and I listened to her, and we did everything. I think she even suplexed me and everything, and it was awesome. But I was looking forward to when I heard Sherry Martel was coming in. I was thinking, oh God, maybe we can work together. That would have been cool. That would have been really cool.
Yeah, that would have been good.
Yeah.
Was Kevin Sullivan booking at all when you were in WCW?
Yeah, he booked on the booking committee when Eddie was on the booking committee.
What did you think of him?
I think he's a great mind. He's like Eddie when it comes to wrestling. Really great mind. Likes to plan stuff out. Likes to, really good. He's from that era, of of telling stories, soap opera stories.
And why were you ultimately released from WCW?
I honestly really don't know. Bischoff told me because I went over his head because one of the suits from WCW, I forget his name, not Kip Fry, it was the other one after Kip Fry. Anyway, he had called me after we had a Clash of the Champions, and it was the Nasty Boys versus Cactus Jack, and who was the other guy, the other big scary guy, Max Payne. And so it was a Clash of the Champions, and it was titles were not on the line. It was a 15-minute time limit, and no, I think it was just a 15-minute time limit for the Clash of the Champion, which aired on Tuesday or Thursday night. And then Sunday was the pay-per-view, and Sunday was a no time limit. Belts on the line, no time limit. Well, the match went the time limit. And so, but they didn't, the guys in the truck didn't catch the ending of the match to show that there was a 1, 2, 3 right when the bell rang. And then I come up and then I run into the ring and I get kissed by Cactus Jack, and then I'm like, ah! And then I get kissed by Max Payne. I'm like, ah! Running around. Well, instead of on the replay, I mean, the people in the house show saw that they got the 1, 2, 3, but the cameras missed it. So instead of on that, 15-second replay showing that Max Payne got the 1, 2, 3 count right at the time period, that makes more sense setting up a no time limit match for the belts Sunday night. On the replay, they showed me getting kissed again. And so I told him, I go, what sells tickets? Having the blonde girl get kissed by the ugly guys, or that they could actually win the belts, And so I told, because he asked me, what did you think of the Clash of the Champions? And that's what I told him. Well, I guess he told Eric Bischoff that, because Eric Bischoff came up to me when we were in Florida doing the TV tapings, and he goes, you went over my head. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, you went over my head. You talked to Bill Dunn.
Bill Bush, maybe?
Yeah, maybe one of that. And I'm like, no, he just asked me how Clash of the Champions was. Well, you don't go over my head. You're fired. I was fired. And that was it.
So then I guess you talked to Paul Heyman, he brought you into ECW.
Yep, Paulie, a couple years, I moved to New York City because I always wanted to live in New York because I love New York. I mean, to me, New York's the center of the universe. And Paulie had ECW at the time, and Paulie came up with the idea. I was first supposed to work with Shane Douglas, and that's what I originally went there to do, and be Shane's manager. And then he put me with Sandman instead. And so it's like, whatever, Sandman, okay. I had fun with Sandman. I shouldn't say anything, but.
Were the dressing rooms in ECW as bad as the rumors?
There was just no chairs. I mean, every chair was broken. It was dirty. It was disgusting. No place to change. It was.
And was there open drug use back there?
No, I didn't see any of that. No, that must have happened after me, because I didn't see any of that. Because I would have looked, but I didn't see any of that.
What did you think about working with Raven?
He was fine. I mean, I just didn't like it that he would always say at the beginning of the match, oh, you girls tie up at the beginning and then get told to go in the back. And then we'll start the match. And I would be like, oh, Booker man, and I said this in front of other people, which I shouldn't have, but I was like, oh, Booker man, you can't come up with something creative for us girls to do? Why do you have us tying up at the beginning and then being sent to the back? You can't come up with this in the finish, And Paulie's like, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't call him out in front of everybody and do that. He goes, if you have an idea, give him the idea. You come up with the idea to use the girls. I'm like, why should I come? I'm not the booker. I'm not booking the finish. That's not my job to do. He goes, you can do it if you want, and then just tell him to incorporate it. And I was like, oh, okay, But it stopped being fun for me. And then when I got my elbow broken by Lori, it stopped being fun for me because at the time, I was getting ready to go back to school and I was living in New York City, and I didn't want wrestling to be, it's like the whole time I always got paid to do something I'd do for free, but to me this was like a pain. It wasn't fun. I mean, Paulie let me do the calendar, which never got done, but I got to put together the calendar, and that was fun. I like doing the, backstage kind of stuff. I like doing that, coming up with ideas for merchandising. I love that idea. And the calendar would have been so great. Pictures came out great. It was put together really good and everything, but it never got printed, so.
And what was that situation with Taz and this Paul?
Paul Verl, oh my gosh. Well, Paul Rollins would not put Taz over because...
Who was he, anyways?
He was some UFC fighter that never did well in UFC, but some UFC fighter who was like 6'6" or something, and Taz is like 5'3", and he wouldn't put Taz over, and they wanted him to put Taz over. So Paulie says, do what you can. I'm wanting you to talk to Paul and convince Paul to put him over. And everybody thinks that I promised him a blowjob or sex or whatever like that, to get him to do it. And that's not really what happened. But I did convince him to put Taz over, and Taz never said thank you.
So you don't find you were treated that great in ECW then overall?
No, I was treated fine. I mean, Paulie would be like, how much do you think you should get paid? And I'd write it down, and he'd pay me. I was treated great in ECW.
So you just left because you were through?
It wasn't that fun anymore. I mean, plus after we did the thing with Sandman and I got my elbow broken, then I don't know what they were going to do with me, because Sandman, they were breaking me and Sandman up, and they didn't really have a place for me.
Right.
So I didn't know what they were going to do. And then it just got to be, oh my God, I'm spending my weekends and going, going from New York City down there, which it was great because Big Dick Dudley would give me rides and stuff like that, but it wasn't fun anymore.
What was up with that Heyman Hustle episode that you did?
Oh my gosh. Well, I moved back, I left New York City and moved to Tampa, and then I moved back to New York, and then Paulie told me about he's doing this Heyman Hustle thing. Do you want to do it? So he's like, yeah. He goes, I just want you to talk the whole time. He goes, I'm going to try to interrupt you, but just keep talking. So I was like, talk? Me? I can't do that. I'm like, yeah. Oh yeah. My friend Cindy's over there going, shh, yeah. I can talk the whole time. My good friend Adrian, we drove from Gettysburg to Tallahassee, and I kept her up the whole night, and the whole 18-hour drive. And she goes, I can drive anywhere as long as you talk. And I'm like, I can talk the whole way. I'll talk the whole time. But yeah, that's what I did. I talked the whole time, and that's what he wanted. He just wanted me to talk, and so I was just coming up with stuff off the cuff, like, oh, there's Derek Jeter. Oh, here's this. Oh, here's that. I mean, I don't know where I got it from. I was just talking. It's my ADHD. It just lets me talk.
Were you in Gettysburg for your Civil War reenactment?
Yeah, I was just there for we do in November for Remembrance Weekend. I was just there walking in the parade, which the parade this year was a lot shorter. It was about a quarter of the length of it was the years before, because there was bomb threats. Because at a reenactment a few months ago, there was a pipe bomb in Virginia at one of the reenactments. Some of these fairy Anifa people threatened it, and so there were snipers on the roofs, and they had dogs sniffing bomb dogs, and a lot of police presence. But when we were walking in the parade, everybody on the parade route was thanking us for being there. Thank you for coming, which was really, really nice.
So So for those who don't know, you do Civil War reenactments.
Yes,
now.
Civil War and World War II reenacting. Yeah, that's my hobby now, where I get to, because I mean, I miss dressing up and doing things in wrestling, because I mean, I used to get to be a different person and dress up and makeup and hair and wear the fun clothes and stuff like that. So now I get my hobby by doing Civil War and World War II and getting to be a different person.
What led to your retirement match from managing? I guess you managed Lance Storm against.
Oh my gosh. Well, and it's like, and I really, at last WrestleMania, I was going to retire from everything and not do autograph sessions or not do anything, because I have a real job and I usually work Thursday through Sunday, and to get time off, I like to have time off for my hobby, for reenacting. And so to take off time for wrestling, and then and living in Tallahassee, I always have to take a connecting flight, and I've been stuck in like Charlotte Airport all night long. And thank God my guy gave me a stuffed animal one time, because I used it as a pillow as I slept and froze my butt off at the Charlotte Airport one night. But I was like, all this traveling, you know, you got to spend one day traveling, you know, go out there and work, and then spend the night in a hotel. I got to get a dog sitter. I have 3 Jack Russell Terriers. You know, I got to get a dog sitter. I got to do you know, it's just so much hassle to do it. And it's like, if I'm going to take off from work, I'd rather be going and doing a reenactment where I'm having fun, you know, having a good time, than traveling and getting. Airplane travel's not like it used to be. It used to be really nice, and now it's just like you're a cow, you know, being herded on. So
Plus, there's injuries involved for people.
yeah, and I hurt myself. I fell in Charlotte today.
Because I'm sure people have been looking at that all over.
Oh, and they see it, yeah. I hurt myself. I got a boo-boo here and my boo-boo on my knee, because I fell completely on my face.
And
today.
The final question.
Yes.
You should be in the WWE Hall of Fame without question.
Oh,
Do you
thank
think they're going to put you in there?
No, I wish. That would be so wonderful. I mean, that would be something great if that would happen to me, but I doubt it. They got so many other women and beautiful women and that
But you
they
were
can
one
put
of
in there.
the people that started it all.
I know. Thank you for saying that, but that's Sunshine. Sunshine should go in there. But
She wasn't as famous as you, though.
oh yeah, well thank you. Yeah, I would love that. I would think that would be the cat's pajamas, and I wouldn't sell my ring if I got a ring.
Like Abdullah, I guess, sold his ring.
Yeah, a few people. So I think Tammy sold hers or put it up for sale.
Oh yeah,
or
I
something.
forgot to ask you about
Yeah.
her. What do you think of her?
You know, I when her and I hung out together, she's one of the most funniest people in the whole wide world. I think she's a hoot. She is really, really funny, and we haven't really spoken or anything in years now. You know, I think she still blames me for the wrestling vixens thing going south, and Sal's, you know, stealing all the money and everything. I think she blames me for it or something. I don't know.
Interesting. And what do you
Yeah.
think of, this didn't happen in your day, but like now all these pictures come out on the internet of these girls that are in WWE now, naked and so forth.
Oh, right, doing stuff. Oh, like the page stuff and everything?
Yeah.
And the nudie things?
What advice would you give those girls?
Don't take, nowadays with social media, don't take anything that you don't want to get out. Because everybody's got cameras nowadays. So when you're out in public, be on your best behavior. Watch your P's and Q's, because you'll never know when somebody has a camera and sees you either fighting with your boyfriend or doing something stupid. So don't do that.
What do you think about Paige overall?
You know, I think, you know, she had an opportunity, you know, to do something and to have a really, really great run. And I think she spoiled it, and I think it's sad, because I think she could have had a really great run and make a lot of money and would probably never have to work again. So.
And now I guess she has an injury or something.
Yeah, her injury, and she can't wrestle anymore and everything. And I heard WWE didn't want her to have the neck surgery, but she pressed for the neck surgery, and it's just like, you're too young to have neck surgery, you know. I don't know. I don't know her, so I can't saying anything.
And for people watching this that want to follow you, what's your...
I'm on Twitter, Missy Hyatt, on Twitter, and I also have Facebook, Missy Hyatt, and I also have MissyHyatt.net. So.
And is there any message you'd like to tell your fans to close this off?
Well, just follow me on Twitter if you like.
Excellent. Well, thanks a lot
Sure.
for doing this.
Thank you.